A crisis that was forming, a crisis that was ignored. Co-founders' mystery 2022 exit. What followed was an eyewash. Did DGCA ignore IndiGo's impending crisis?
About the 6 guys who went to Ranthambore to watch the tiger. So they were walking around and they had an encounter with the tiger. The tiger was looking at these 6 people, and the 6 guys were looking at the tiger. And suddenly they started to run for their lives. So while they were running away, one of them stopped and started to go into his duffel bag looking for something. And these other 5 people said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm looking for my sneakers." He says, "You can't be serious. You think you're going to outrun this tiger?" And this guy said to the other 5 guys, he says, "No. All I need to do is outrun the 5 of you." This award truly belongs to Rakesh, who has given us this.
This was Rakesh Bhatia in 2011 receiving the Businessman of the Year award. He's praising Rakesh Gangwal, the co-founder of IndiGo. And what happened from this to 2022 when Rakesh wrote to SEBI saying that IndiGo is at a watershed moment. It has started veering off from the core principles and values of governance that made IndiGo what it is today and blamed Bhatia for entering into dubious related party transactions. Was this a warning that Rakesh Gangwal was giving? Did IndiGo have this ongoing crisis a long time coming? Let's decode all these warning signs that began with the co-founder Gangwal. Now an open letter written by an anonymous IndiGo employee. Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Explained with me, Uday Pratap Singh. India's aviation industry has long been a graveyard of broken ambitions. Kingfisher crashed out of the skies. Jet Airways stalled on the runway. Air India had to be pulled back from the brink. And even IndiGo, the one airline that seemed to defy India's aviation curse, found itself under scrutiny as far back as 2019. In 2019, co-founder Rakesh Gangwal accused Bhatia of breaching corporate governance norms. He claimed that Bhatia, through his group company Interglobe Enterprises, exercised disproportionate control over IndiGo's affairs. He also raised red flags about related party transactions, which are business dealings between IndiGo and Bhatia-linked firms that were not subject to sufficient board scrutiny. According to Gangwal, he also criticized the lack of independence in board appointments, suggesting that Bhatia could push through decisions without meaningful checks. This included major moves like leasing, vendor contracts and operational tie-ups, areas where Bhatia's influence allegedly went unchallenged. According to Gangwal, this was a risk to shareholder value. Soon he raised these concerns with SEBI over shareholder rights, making the dispute public, and the allegations centered on financial opacity and concentrated decision-making, which he believed endangered the company's long-term health. Unable to reconcile their differences internally, the founders eventually took their battle to the London Court of International Arbitration in 2019. By February 2022, Gangwal had resigned from the board and announced his intention to gradually exit the company over the next 5 years. Since then, his exit has unfolded in stages. When a sizable co-founder stake is reduced in stages, it's not just a financial move, it changes the board dynamics. In Gangwal's case, his exit reduced a check on certain executive decisions. This was probably the first sign of IndiGo's upcoming crisis. After 6 years and a major IndiGo operational fiasco, the Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu also flagged IndiGo's internal crisis in the winter Parliament session. He said that FDTL cannot be the reason for the meltdown. Let's listen in.
We are saying because of the FTTL, this situation has arisen. There have been a lot of internal complications. This is a day-to-day operations thing that the IndiGo should have maintained. IndiGo was supposed to manage the crew, was supposed to manage the roster through its day-to-day operations. We are there to check if the FDTL is properly implemented or not, and there has been no compromise on that side. And for one thorough full month, we have been observing. On 1st of December, we had a meeting with IndiGo on FDTL itself. When they required some clarifications, we have given the clarifications also with that idea, and they have not flagged this issue.
The aviation minister is clear when he says that IndiGo was not blindsided by the FTTL rules at all. They were informed about the new guidelines well before time. Surprisingly, IndiGo's annual report for 2023-24 and 2024-25 do not mention the new pilot rest regulations, even in sections detailing operational risk. This omission has come under scrutiny given that the FTTL rollout was scheduled in 2 phases, July 1st, 2025 and November 1st, 2025. These are administrational fissures, but for months and years there have been hints of a toxic culture alleged by former and current staff. The most salient recent flashpoint was an anonymous open letter circulating amongst employees and published by media outlets which accused senior management and the CEO Peter Elbers of systemic safety lacuna. Pressure to sit on safety concerns in an environment that would punish those who flagged risks. Addressed to fellow citizens and IndiGo's management, the anonymous author claims to be a long-serving insider who lived every sleepless night, every squeezed paycheck and every impossible roster. The letter insists the airline's current crisis was years in the making and lays the blame squarely on senior leadership. It accuses mismanagement of ignoring repeated safety warnings from pilots, running the airline into a staffing crisis through overwork, promoting unqualified executives into senior roles, and creating a work culture driven by fear rather than accountability. The letter said that pilots who flagged fatigue and safety risks, the letter alleges, were called to head office, intimidated, shouted at, and humiliated. It claims night duties were doubled and leaves curtailed without any compensation for the physical and mental toll. The letter explicitly names 8 top officials as responsible for the meltdown. At the top is CEO Peter Elbers, who was criticized for being on holiday in the Netherlands when the crisis unfolded. Other executives named included senior leaders from operations and control functions. According to IndiGo's public disclosures, Isidor Porcoras heads operations, Ashim Mitra leads flight operations, and Jason Herter oversees the operations control center. None of the individuals named in the letter have responded publicly to the allegations so far. Now, the pilots have come out to call this meltdown orchestrated. Pilots in IndiGo Airlines have questioned how the shortage of 65 captains and 59 co-pilots following the implementation of the revised flight duty time limitation norms could have triggered the cancellation and delays of thousands of flights, and alleged that the crisis was engineered to bring the country to its knees and force the government to put the FTTL norms in abeyance. Pilots allege the crisis that brought India to its knees was engineered to sabotage the rollout of new safety norms. Sources in IndiGo say that SOPs were meticulously followed to ensure on-time performance consistently over the years, were deliberately tweaked to cause delays and trigger chaos so that the new norms were kept in abeyance. Now, the government has to look into whether IndiGo let the crisis escalate. There is another stakeholder here, that is DGCA. The Airlines Pilot Association of India had written to DGCA expressing strong objections over selective and unsafe dispensations granted to IndiGo under the revised flight duty time limit CAR Phase 2 implementation. Alpha highlighted that the decision to extend exemptions to the airline contradicts prior agreements, compromises pilot safety, and undermines the intent of the FTTL regulations, which are designed to protect passengers as well as crew. The ALPA India cited the November 24, 2025 meeting with DGCA officials, where it was agreed that no exemptions motivated by commercial interests would be allowed during our meeting on the 24th November 2025. It was unequivocally agreed that no dispensation, exemption or variation, particularly those motivated by commercial interests, would be granted to any operator. The consensus was clear. In the end, the signs were always there: the ownership view that tore through the boardroom, the whistleblower warnings that spoke of a toxic workplace, the sackings and silencing of staff during COVID, the pilot fatigue complaints that kept returning year after year. The gaps that DGCA chose not to see, each of these was a red flag, wave after wave pointing to a storm brewing inside India's biggest airline. And today's meltdown is not a sudden collapse, it's the inevitable result of years of pressure cracks that went unchecked, unheeded and unaddressed. The question now is not just how IndiGo recovers, but how India's aviation system learns to listen to its warning signs before another crisis taxis onto the runway.
A crisis that was forming, a crisis that was ignored. Co-founders' mystery 2022 exit. What followed was an eyewash. Did DGCA ignore IndiGo's impending crisis?